supernatural, and being out here, you can sort of tell why.
One that links two nations.
This is border country.
Derelict for over a century, the Shannon-Erne Waterway was reopened in 1994.
Since then, we've longed to discover its wild and remote shores.
It's magical.
On past journeys, we've explored Prue's family roots, and now it's my turn.
What do I find? Not only that I have relations in this part of the country, but that we're actually sailing towards a house that once belonged to my ancestors.
Hello!
And in County Fermanagh, we uncover a link to Ireland that runs deeper than I could ever imagine.
I thought I'd married a penniless actor. Have I married into the landed gentry?
Our voyage begins on the shores of a lake in southern Ireland.
Gosh.
Our vessel is waiting for us at the entrance to the Loch Allen Canal.
Maeve.
Maeve.
Yeah.
Maeve was a legendary warrior queen who once ruled this part of Ireland.
She looks more friendly than warlike.
Oh, look. It's so wide.
Yeah. I'd say it's about 10 feet, wouldn't you?
I know. Never had an ensuite before.
Oh, well, play your cards right.
Oh, brilliant.
It rains quite a lot here. I think maybe we should get off while we're still dry.
No chance of that, I'm afraid. But we're used to narrowboating in all weathers.
Off we go. Our journey across two countries.
Our voyage begins in the Republic of Ireland in the northwest. Following the short Loch Allen Canal, we'll then turn onto the Shannon-Erne Canal. Crossing into Northern Ireland, our route links up with the Great Lakes of the River Erne. Heading ever northwards, we'll reach the end of the waterway at Lower Loch Erne in County Fermanagh.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's like old Ireland, the island of myths and legend.
Yeah. This is wild, very, very beautiful.
Yes.
The Loch Allen Canal is off the beaten track today, but it was once part of a network of canals and rivers connecting rural Ireland to the cities. This canal transported coal all the way to Dublin.
It's quite difficult to see what is above the waterline and what is reflection. It's like that poem of A.A. Milne, isn't it? The trees bending down to meet the trees.
The sun looks down from quiet skies to where a quiet water lies, and silent trees stoop down to the trees.
Sorry about that. It's obviously we've got to keep it absolutely in the centre of the channel.
Oh, darling, you're right. Ah!
Sorry about that.
God almighty.
This journey gives Tim and me a chance to explore our family links with Ireland.
You've got some sort of a family connection with Ireland, haven't you?
Well, yes, but I never knew any of them. I think I had a great-grandmother from County Mayo. But you've got quite strong Irish connections, haven't you? I mean, is this a journey back to your roots?
My roots in Ireland are pretty well all on the east coast. My family were Anglo-Irish, which was not uncommon at that time, especially around the Dublin area.
I've always been curious about the depth of my Irish roots. Perhaps on this journey, I'll find out how Irish I am.
This is Acres Lake, yeah. But we find lots and lots of these little sort of mini lochs.
Famed for its rain and countless lakes, they say the land in these parts is sold by the gallon.
We're coming to the end of the 3-mile-long Loch Allen Canal.
End of navigation. So you don't have to navigate from now on in, darling.
Just leave it to chance.
Ahead is where we turn onto the Shannon Waterway.
Very, very sharp.
Well done.
18 miles of river and canal that will lead us toward the great Erne Lakes.
Today, this picturesque stretch of canal is popular with leisure boaters. But it has a reputation for being the world's least commercially successful canal.
Costing 25 million in today's money to build, its opening in 1860 coincided with the arrival of the railways, making it instantly obsolete. The canal operated for only 9 years and saw just 8 paying boats, generating a total income of under £2,000. Unsurprisingly, it closed and remained that way for 126 years.
Good afternoon.
I'll give you a rest.
You are lovely.
Frank McCabe has worked on the canal ever since it was restored and reopened in 1997. He's also lived beside its banks all his life.
So as a boy, you must have seen it in a very derelict condition.
Yes, coming home from school, you could walk across the canal. The water would only come up a little bit above your ankles on a very dry summer.
Why was the canal originally opened? What was the real reason for it?
Well, you know, we just had a famine in this country, and things was at a deplorable bad state. So maybe this was the whole idea, to open up this canal, to give a little bit of respite to people and get them back on their feet again.
Yes, a bit of employment.
Yes.
Yeah.
During the potato blight in the 1840s, famine swept through Ireland. 1 million died of starvation, and 1 million more were forced to emigrate.
The building of the canal was an attempt to create jobs and save lives.
But by the time construction started, many of the labourers were too weakened by hunger to work. Frank himself has found evidence of how bad things were back then.
I have a piece of land along the river, just outside of Carrigan, and during the excavation, a big pot was dug up. So I took it up on the tractor up to my house, and I discovered afterwards that it was famine pot.
These pots are lasting reminders of the terrible years of famine. They were used by government soup kitchens to distribute food to the starving population.
But it was often too little food, too late. Many labourers building the canal are said to have collapsed through hunger during their shifts.
So I have at my house the very pot that fed the men who worked on the canal.
A canal born out of such tragic times has in recent years found a new role.
When it came to the refurbishment, that was a pretty huge job, wasn't it?
It was indeed.
And you were involved in that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I started in the early spring of 1991.
Reconstruction of the canal was an idea born out of the peace process. Backed by both British and Irish governments, it recreates a lost link between the North and South.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
People from Northern Ireland who come with their private boats down, have a chat with their local southerners, and this is a good thing.
Of course it is.
I didn't ever realise as growing up that this canal would be, there'd be cruisers going down the canal and boats, and it would be officially open. It was one of the good things that happened in my life.
Yeah.
This canal carries many sad memories, but it's also become a symbol of hope for the future, of friendship and peace.
It's been a pleasure meeting you and your good wife, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your stay in Ireland.
Thank you very much. Lovely meeting you.
And all the best.
Take care.
God bless.
Yeah, bye-bye.
the restoration, every lock on this canal was modernised and now operates on a push-button hydroelectric system.
And instead of a metal lock key, I've been issued with some sort of plastic credit card.
So what do?
I go up to that thing and I put the card in
Yes.
and I do what it tells me.
What does it tell you?
Oh, I can't remember. I'm quite an intelligent person and I know what to do when people tell me, but I keep forgetting.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
Prue's condition makes her anxious about new things, but she does understand locks, so I'm sure she'll work it out.
Do I just press that? Nothing happened. I'm used to sort of handling locks with a, you know, with a windlass and a lot of strength, and in this I just have to press a button. I can't get used to it really.
So you feel cheated, do you?
Yeah, a bit. Not earning my keep.
Right. Two swans ahead.
Hello, Swan. How are you?
Hello. Yes, they're a pair. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
We've reached our mooring for the night near the village of Leitrim. And for a perfect antidote to the sad history of this stretch of canal, we've been invited to a pub famous for its traditional music, dance and hospitality. Anyone who can sing or dance is invited to join in.
This is a local song called My Lovely Leitrim Shore. So thinking of old memories, we started out from town. The birds were singing in the trees as we were walking down. I'd like to stop there now and I'd like to ask Timothy West up to continue the song. And,
You're crazy.
Will you walk with me once more to a place we've been before? And when strolling down together, we can pick the rolling heather. And while walking hand in hand, we recall it was so grand, looking out over Loch Allen on that lovely Leitrim shore.
It's not just about the singing here. But now Tim's done a turn, I can't really say no.
Right foot first.
Right foot first. So 5, 6, 7, and 8, and toe. Heel, toe. 1, 2, 3.
It's one of the things I love about Prue. She's always game to try something new.
Heel and toe. And about. Oh, thank you so much. Good job.
Well, I didn't fall over.
We've never been to the lovely Leitrim shore before, but whether it's the hospitality or something deeper, we're feeling very at home.
We're on our first ever voyage through the canals of Ireland. Travelling along the Shannon Erne Waterway, We're following a route that takes us from southern to northern Ireland.
Okay. Thanks, darling.
Okay.
Restored in 1994, this stretch of canal was improved by the installation of newfangled locks,
I'm getting the hang of this now.
which is more than can be said for my husband.
Tim?
Sorry about that.
Today we keep heading east. Travelling through Loch Garradice, we'll pass the town of Ballyconnell. Then, as we cross the border, the waterway opens into Loch Erne, and we make our way to the estate of Cron.
Tim looks in his element. He seems at home out here.
Sang us a song in the pub last night, and it sounded, well, so convincingly Irish. It was quite a surprise. I suspect that his links with Ireland are deeper and longer lasting than he realises.
First bit of blue sky. It looks as if it's here for a few minutes anyway. It's beginning to look lovely. And curiously, unlike English canals, don't know what it is quite.
Perhaps it's the fact that we've met almost no other boat, seemingly alone in a vast, unspoiled wilderness.
It's magical. A countryside, which it goes on and on for miles and miles.
That's the starlings.
It's time for me to tackle another push-button lock.
Can you get off?
I don't know, not at the moment. Can you get a bit nearer?
Can't get any nearer than that.
Oh,
Right. Okay. Did you hurt yourself?
no, it's all right. No problem. Okay.
Every now and again, I get a reminder of our limits. But while we can still get up and dust ourselves off, we'll keep going.
And these push-button locks certainly make my crew duties a lot easier.
The waters of the canal open out as we enter the vastness of Loch Garradice.
This is a bit of a new experience for us. On the English canals, you sometimes get a bit of broad water, but nothing like this.
What a magical place.
It's a land so rich in legend and the supernatural. And being out here, you can sort of tell why.
Many stories tell of the fairies who live beneath the surface of the lochs. Irish fairies are an ancient race who were driven into hiding by invading humans. In calm, clear weather, it's said you can just make out the towers and columns of their underwater palaces. Boatmen coming home late at night have often told of sweet singing and glimpses of lights far below.
Thank you.
Awaiting us at our mooring is Jack Lynch, a Shanachie,
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey! Well,
a bearer of the old law who keeps the ancient traditions alive.
come aboard.
I
and,
will come aboard.
It's a bit warmer down there.
So, welcome to this part of the world.
It's lovely to be here. So tell us about the Irish fairies.
Well, a lot of people's
picture of fairies is from Victorian times, a little creature with gossamer wings and that. In the Irish tradition, they're not your little Peter Pan people. The fairy folk could be like you or me, big, normal people.
Do they have special powers?
They do. They steal away small baby boys.
Ah, yes.
The Stolen Child, the great Yeats poem, Come Away,
Yes,
O
of
Human
course,
Child.
yes. Oh.
And in early photographs of the 20th century, you'll see boys are wearing dresses. This is to confuse the fairies. So the whole fairy belief is pretty strong. We're quite close to that other world, you know. They say, actually, in the Irish tradition, Samhain, or Halloween, that's the time when the curtain between this world and the other world is thinnest, and that's when the fairies and the ghosts come into our world. Can I ask you, Prue, do you believe in fairies?
Well, when I was little, I absolutely did, you know. But well, now I've grown up, I suppose I don't, but it's very difficult not to when you're in Ireland. So, do you believe in fairies, Jack?
Well, now, that's the question. My father once saw a fairy and heard a banshee.
Ha-ha!
He was a reliable man.
Well, anything he said, I believed. I haven't yet seen them, but I'll take his word for it. I'm sure we'll all see fairies at some stage of the night, especially after this Wicklow whiskey.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leaving the lake behind, we follow the canal as it weaves its way towards Northern Ireland.
And this is border country. We'll be running along the border very shortly and passing the Achalane Bridge, which is in ruins because it was destroyed in 1972.
The Achalane Bridge was a major link between the two countries. Its bombing during the Troubles severed two close communities for decades.
It's never been repaired.
How do they manage now? How do they get over?
Oh, well, there's a new bridge now being built. It's the Peace Bridge.
Oh, God bless it.
And that's the one that was destroyed.
Terribly upsetting, the whole thing.
It was a very sad time, bringing people into conflict with each other who previously had worked together and lived together very well.
Since it was restored and reopened, the canal itself has become a symbol of peace as it reunites north and south. As the locals say, water knows no boundary.
They're all under the same sky, same rain, same umbrella.
We've crossed the border into the Northern Irish county of Fermanagh. Here the waterway opens out into vast lochs as we make our way towards Crom Castle and its estate.
I'm pouring a medicinal drink for the skipper. He's standing out in the pouring rain.
What's he got there?
A medicinal draught for you.
Pour quite generous whiskies, don't you?
Yes, sorry, is it too
no,
much?
that's all right, we'll manage. We're in Upper Loch Erne
Yes.
now.
Very beautiful.
It is gorgeous, gorgeous. Even in this light, it's wonderful.
Yes. What's the baby castle?
It's a folly.
This 19th century folly announces our arrival at the lakeside estate of Crom.
This looks very remote now,
Yes, it does.
but back in 1600, this was the place to come. And you arrived always by boat.
Founded by a Scots settler at the start of the 17th century, Crom has been the ancestral seat of the Earls of Erne for over 200 years. At its height in the early 19th century, It was also a home for over 100 estate workers and their families. Crom is spread over a series of islands, linked by stretches of shallow water, and the only way to get around, whether you were a worker or an earl, was by boat. And the same is true today.
So welcome aboard the Crom Cot. Now this boat is over 100 years old.
Good Lord.
You need a boat with a very shallow keel on it, so you can get in onto stony shores and stuff like that.
Right.
Our skipper is Malachi from the National Trust, who run the estate today.
It's very remote and peaceful, tranquil now, but it would have been a very busy part of the world in its day, you know. And at the epicenter of the whole wide estate, all connected by water, was Crom, you know.
Right.
Once one of the grandest estates in Ireland, Crom in its heyday was a social hub for the county set and was famous for its parties and its yacht races.
Now, this is the Crom schoolhouse coming into view.
There was once a whole community living out here in this remote spot.
This is where all the children of the estate would have went to school.
How did they get there, the kids?
Oh, the little stone structure over there.
Right, yes.
The little shelter. They would have waited over there to get the boat across. And this was the boat that brought them across. Yeah.
Every day.
Every day.
It's truly a lost world.
Ahead is that Folly, built on Gad's Island by the 3rd Earl of Erne in 1847.
A lot of people lived on the estate, worked on the estate, and whenever they got married, they got one day off a year for their honeymoon, and they spent it on the island here. So this is like the honeymoon island. You know?
Sweet. Do you fancy a second honeymoon out there?
Well, it'd be private, wouldn't it? You wouldn't have waiters saying, I think the lady's just gone upstairs.
So just coming up here on our left is the old castle.
Oh, right.
Crom's history is far from being all honeymoons and yacht races. Its origins lie in a bloody period of Irish and British history.
This is the original 1610 plantation castle.
So it's just enough of the ruin to get a clear idea of how it must have been.
The castle withstood 2 sieges during the Jacobite Rebellion. The second, in 1689, was particularly brutal, and its memory still scars the land today.
So in the second siege in July of that year, a lot of people lost their lives. A lot of them fled, and they had all their boats. If you look over here, they had all their boats tendered to Gad Island. But somebody cut the lines, the boats were tethered up, so they couldn't flee on boats. So they had to swim or wade around the other side of the island there, and they were all cut down. And there were so many of them killed, I reckon 3,000 or 4,000, that the waters sort of ran red with blood, you know, so it's called the Bloody Pass.
The Bloody Pass. That casts a different light on this idyllic stretch of water. So far, this journey has revealed the joy, the myths, and the tragedy of this land.
Now it's time to head to the town of Enniskillen at the heart of the Waterway, where we'll uncover some personal history with the help of a local genealogist.
Steer between those 2 posts. Right? No, between those 2 posts.
I know, but it's miles over here. Now what, Skipper?
I'm lost now, completely.
Oh.
Well, we went the wrong way round the Folly. When I was a lad, I served a term as office boy to an attorney's firm. I cleaned the windows and I swept the floor and I polished up the handle of the big front door.
You polish up the handle of the big front door.
I polished up that handle so carefully that now I am the ruler of the Queen's Navy.
He polished up the handle so carefully that now he is the ruler of the Queen's Navy.
We're on a voyage through Ireland's waterways. Having been temporarily lost, things are now looking up.
We've crossed into Northern Ireland and are now following the River Erne through the Upper Loch in County Fermanagh, heading for the town of Enniskillen.
At Enniskillen, we'll be meeting a genealogist to uncover the full story of Tim's links with Ireland.
My mother, Olive, was born in Dublin. My grandparents were Anglo-Irish. It was my Anglo-Irish grandfather, in fact, who started the long family tradition of acting.
He had a wonderful name. C.W. Carlton Crowe was his professional stage name.
Carlton Crowe doesn't sound very Irish to me.
Well, Crowe is, yes. Crowe's very Irish. I don't know whether the Carlton was an affectation or whether it really did have some kind of ancestral property.
We shall see, as we're now approaching Enniskillen.
The town of Enniskillen has been marked by the Troubles, and the Remembrance Day bombing of 1987 shocked the world. 11 people lost their lives that day, and 63 were injured. Since then, the town has reclaimed its peaceful identity.
We're approaching Enniskillen Castle. It's been a stronghold since the 1400s, in the days of the Irish chieftains. But this later castle was built by a settler from London.
Good morning, you're very welcome to Enniskillen. Good morning, good morning.
We're greeted by Catherine, an expert on the castle's history.
This structure was built by a man called William Cole, who came to Enniskillen at the beginning of the 17th century as part of a process called the Plantation of Ulster, where we see English and Scottish settlers coming to Ulster, and specifically here in Enniskillen, we have William Cole who developed the town.
Why was this such an important spot?
Because Enniskillen is an island, and on the island you build a castle for all those strategically important reasons, looking out over this narrow point of access into Ulster. Enniskillen itself is an island town, Innisketlin, the Isle of Kathleen, and is unique for being the only island town in Ireland, completely surrounded by water.
Right.
Catherine is taking us through the gatehouse into the heart of the castle, home to the genealogy department, where more personal histories are unfolded.
We've been doing some research into your own family history here at the museum and have some information that you might be interested in. So if we maybe go this way. So this is Frank.
Hello.
What I know of my Irish ancestry so far is that they came from the Dublin area, and my grandfather was the Irish actor Christopher Carlton Crowe. I'd always imagined that he made up the Carlton bit as a good stage name.
So, we start off with your great-grandmother. Her maiden name was Carlton.
Aha. We wondered whether the Carlton was a real name or you know, an affectation. But apparently it was a real name.
No, it's definitely a real name. And I mean, actually, that's what's most interesting, because the Carltons were an English family who came to Ireland during the plantation.
That far back?
Yes, very far back. Mm-hmm. You have a very, very strong connection with Ireland, and particularly with Fermanagh.
We didn't know that, did we?
Not at all.
And you have some very illustrious ancestors. Sir Guy Carton, who was from Fermanagh, was Governor General of Canada, and he is connected to your family.
Wow.
Now, this is a family who came from Cumberland, in what is now modern-day Cumbria.
Yeah. It's given me a lot to think about, an enormous amount.
We now realise that part of your family 400 years ago, the Cartons travelled to Fermanagh, they established themselves here, and so perhaps maybe yourself and Prue here are retracing the journey that they may have taken along the water.
Yes, yes indeed. It's extraordinary to be here in the one place where probably a lot of that history can best be unfolded.
Absolutely, on the ground where we can see where they would have been and where they lived when they were here.
Well, it's not every day that you discover that you have a new family from a new place, somewhere that you've never been before.
Back on the boat, Tim immediately immerses himself in the newly discovered branch of his family tree.
I come across a mention of an estate, very small estate, called Rossfad, built by Lancelot Carleton, which, by extraordinary chance, is a little bit further up the loch from where we are now.
So we can visit your heritage.
We could go and have a look at it, yes. Very exciting, isn't it? I think it gets more and more extraordinary.
I thought I'd married a penniless actor.
Did you?
Have I married into the landed gentry?
I'm afraid so, yes, yes.
It's a bit embarrassing.
Tim has always been so private about those he loves the most. But this family revelation has moved him.
Here we are in a county I've never been to before, on a loch that I never knew existed. And what do I find? Not only that I have relations in this part of the country, but that we're actually sailing towards a house that belonged to one of them. And we can go and visit it. And I mean, that's just extraordinary, isn't it?
Our Irish voyage of discovery has become a personal journey back into my family's past. Today we'll reach the spot where they settled 4 centuries ago.
It's absolutely extraordinary, having only just learned of the existence of a family of mine here, anywhere here, to suddenly find oneself sailing past their house.
Following the Erne Waterway ever northwards, we'll pass the sacred island of Devonish, before stopping off at my ancestor's estate. We'll then push on to the top of the loch, at the edge of the Atlantic Ocean.
That's Devonish Island.
Sounds very sinister.
Yes, Devonish.
Devonish, yes.
Well, perhaps it was at some point. It's an ancient monastery.
Strange.
The monastery was founded 1,500 years ago. Today, it's an isolated and mysterious place. But throughout the Middle Ages, it was a busy stopping-off point for pilgrims from all over Europe. And it was still occupied well into the 16th century.
These graves.
Yeah.
Wonder if there might be a Carleton among them.
Oh. Your new Irish ancestors.
Yeah. It's possible.
Time for our final push towards Rossfad.
Part of my family lived here on this loch for 400 years. See that gap between the trees?
Yes, yes.
Well, I think that's the house. It's got to be.
Quite a substantial house.
The drawing that I've been given of my relative's 17th century residence shows a fortified manor house. But although some of the old stone wall still stands, Rossfad has been transformed into a comfortable-looking Georgian home.
So that was the old bit, and probably that wall.
That's right.
Hello, hello. You're very welcome to Rossfad, your ancestral home.
I know.
Would you believe it?
My ancestors, the Carletons, are, I presume, long gone, as the house's current owner is a local doctor, John Williams.
The entrance hall.
Beautiful, isn't it?
It is nice, isn't it?
What do you think?
I think it's wonderful. Wonderful. I don't recognise any of it, of course, but
It's enchanting.
I wish.
Come into the drawing room and take the weight off your feet. So this is Heather.
John and his daughter-in-law Heather have done some background research on who owned this land.
So the Carletons came here in 1613, we believe. And then I think about 100 years later, a Carleton daughter married a Richardson. So the Richardsons inherited Rossford through marriage. And they continued to live here until 1967.
So my family, who first moved here in 1613, have been living here right up till really more or less a little while before you bought the house.
That's right.
1917.
Long time.
It's extraordinary. A branch of my family lived on this spot for almost 400 years.
I had no idea that these Carletons were a proper family that dated back all this way, and that I was directly related to them. And then I found not only that they came to Fermanagh, they actually had a house on the loch that we were sailing along at that moment.
Wow.
It is, it's creepy.
That's uncanny, isn't it?
It is uncanny. Talk about small world.
So your interest in boats and the water is obviously genetic, because the Carletons had no other way of getting around.
So canal boats were in the blood, darling?
Canal boats, obviously, yes, yes. Yeah.
Canal boats and this beautiful land.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Goodbye, lovely to meet you.
Goodbye.
4 centuries ago, part of my family left England and set sail for Ireland and the banks of Loch Erne. They sailed the same waters and saw the same sights as we're seeing today. It's a waterway entwined with my family's history.
Following canal, loch and river, we've uncovered a turbulent and sometimes painful past.
We've learnt that water knows no boundaries.
Oh, how nice.
We found only warmth and friendship.
It's been a pleasure meeting you and your good wife.
On a voyage that's given us a glimpse into my family's past, a past I never knew existed.
What do you think?
I think it's wonderful.
Where are we aiming for?
Well, I can't see any land ahead now, so maybe it'd be a good idea if we turn back.
Before we end up in America, you mean?
Before we end up in America or at the bottom of the sea.
Coming soon, our 2 greatest passions combine, canals and theatre.
Off to Stratford, the actor's spiritual home.
And we embrace a new culture in Sweden.
So you're feeling Swedish?
Terribly Swedish.
As we embark on our greatest canal journey yet.
I used to dream about sailing around the world. It's fulfilled all my childhood dreams for me. Thank you.
Well, that's it for this series. Next week, a little more upmarket. The floating palaces in £1 million mega yachts, Sunday at 8. Next tonight, Carrie tries to learn what is in the leaked CIA documents in Homeland. And you can catch up on all the latest series of Fargo on All 4.